So where were you before this?
I was in China.
And you were out there your whole life up until 6 years ago?
Yeah. So basically, after coming to Japan, my perspective about the world changed a lot, and I also studied a lot of stuff like both in Japan, both in Asia, in China, and in the West. So yeah, I'm pretty content where I am now.
Right. You said you changed your perspective a lot. I'm curious to know what you mean by that. Like, what are some of the big things that changed, do you think?
Like how the international community accepts Chinese people. My whole life, I have never been proud of being a Chinese or like I hate being a Chinese. But it's after coming to a foreign country, like people start to judge you. People start to give their opinions on your country or nationality for no reasons. You start to realize, oh, I'm Chinese. I have to realize this. I have to realize that. Well, it's not a very pleasant topic to say since there's a pandemic that started in China and it spread across the world. People don't like it. Yeah,
Right.
so after the pandemic started in Japan, I had a hard time because people just being mean to me and stuff.
Was there a lot of that in Japan as well? Like even like people that you spoke to regularly, they were making judgments like to your
No,
face, like
not people I talk to regularly, but like sometimes like strangers and stuff. If they realize I'm Chinese, they might
right,
say something.
right. Yeah, Japan isn't the. I mean, I want to choose my words carefully here, but they are the
No,
most
worry.
outwardly friendly of people, but I know they can also turn coat or even have like they can be very like they can have repressed feelings that maybe they kind of snap. Like even I've experienced xenophobia in Japan. I've been told to get out of a restaurant because I don't look like them. And I've always heard from other people too that it's like it's a tough crowd to be around, especially regularly.
Yeah, to be honest, there's a nearby ramen restaurant, like super awfully rated on Google. Like they told
Oh,
every fucking foreigner to go out, do not eat here.
oh shit,
Yeah, it's
damn.
kind of famous for. I live like not very far from Akihabara, so there's a ramen restaurant here, like very xenophobia.
Sure, yeah, that's nuts. We got off on a pretty intense note right now. We kind of just jumped straight into the shit.
Yeah.
But
Didn't
for the
expect to talk about this.
yeah, for the people who don't know, Sinno is sort of I don't know what we'd call you, sort of like a like
I don't have to comment anything. I'm a nobody.
no. We're not gonna do. We're gonna give you something because you do. You have there is some title that is easy to kind of refer to you by, and it's like I think you occupy a similar space that I do, as far as like
Really?
a role in a community, which is sort of like somebody who like is an aggregate, right? Who like brings people together, or who sort of like curates, who creates some type of sort of like bastion um, for people who just are into the same thing, who all have a similar interest, right? I've called myself the words or the sort of like titles that I've given myself have been I've called myself a mascot. I've called myself like a poster child. I've called myself. I know there's a few other words, but I feel like that's you fall basically in a very similar title. What do you think? Does that feel accurate?
I don't consider myself like a poster child or something. I always I mean, if you read my Twitter profile, I always call myself a nobody, a blank piece of paper.
Uh huh.
I don't know anything. I don't know anything better than you do, and
Sure.
so I always hold this mentality so that there are always people better than me, people who understand like immersive sims better than me, people who do better than me, so I can keep this humble ground for me to improve
Right.
and
Yeah. I mean,
study.
okay. So that's really interesting because I think like where you're coming from, the modesty is something that like I think
Yeah,
that will keep you on your toes, that will keep you honestly in a better place than a lot of people who might not have that type of modesty, right?
oh,
But I do think that despite that, right? Like despite saying like that whatever it is, like I don't know any better, that you're still somebody who a nice little niche community has decided to turn to, you know, to sort of like follow and listen to what you have to say. So in that way, I think like it's kind of like why I do this show, right? Because like I feel similarly. Like I don't think I know more than any of my peers. I don't think I'm like better or whatever. But I am like you putting in more effort to bring us together, right?
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of people out there who are in our community who don't do anything to bring us together, right? They might say hello on a thing here or there, but like I share my friends' work. I go out of my way to talk to my friends and to elevate their voices. I go out of my way to say, "Hey, check this out. Hey, check this out," and stuff like that, right? And every now and then you get people in the community. I think it's especially with our community, it's really nice that we share things a lot, right? Because it's so niche. It's like not so many people are making immersive sims, so we kind of cherish those moments. But I think still overall, there is more effort on your behalf than basically everybody, right? There's very few people. Like I think the only people who are kind of like doing something similar to you are YouTubers. There's a few YouTubers whose whole channel is sort of dedicated to the genre of immersive sims and also other stuff. But yeah, you know what I'm saying?
I mean, I watched a lot of your videos, interview videos before this happened. So
Nice.
I really appreciate like you did interviews with Alice
Yep.
Alice Tucci, the
Yep.
developer of Spectra, and Luis Bento,
Yep.
the developer of Corpus eDesk. So I really appreciate that you do interviews with them to bring more attention to their games and their stories. So I feel pretty flattered. Now it's my turn, and I really appreciate what you do for the community.
Yeah.
And I always really appreciate like you share the almost the same attitude towards the definition of immersive sims and stuff. Like no barriers, don't gatekeep it and stuff.
Right. That's an interesting topic that I think maybe we can get into then is something that like how do you feel about like can you kind of put into your own words then like how you feel about people who have really strong feelings about what should and should not be an immersive sim?
Oh, now we are getting into this.
Yeah,
This is
I mean
going-
honestly like we just have to like close our eyes and jump in, man, cuz like people are going to get riled up around this stuff anyway.
Yeah. Well, talking about immersive sims, it's like, I mean, initially there's Ultima 7, Ultima Underworld, then Ultima Underworld in Space, System Shock, right? This is the founding games, and people base their like definitions of immersive sims on these primitive titles.
Right.
And then Steve came. Suddenly, there's a like stealth aspect of immersive sims, right? Those light and shadow systems, sound systems, like enemy AIs, factions, and amazing level design instead of like a dungeon, right? Like a labyrinth.
Right.
After that, like I mean, Warren Spector like had an infinite budget from shit, what's his name?
John Romero.
Doom developer, yeah. Now they got infinite budget to make Deus Ex. Now there's more aspects to it, and also yeah, there's System Shock 2 as well. Like there's role playing game aspects to immersive sim now.
Right.
Like, and now there's like open-ended levels, like for example the New York hub in Deus Ex and the Liberty Island and stuff. Like open-ended level design, a city world hub, all kinds of that. Like more verticality and stuff. And NPC characters will judge your actions. For example, if GC went to the women's toilet, and the director will judge on you. So,
Right.
so in my opinion, the immersive sim is always improving on its design philosophy. So it's ever evolving.
Yeah.
Like, if you base your definitions on this ever evolving design philosophy, making your definitions more complicated each day, eventually your definition won't work on the founding games. Like if you say the game's immersive sims has to be emergent, has to be systemic, has to give players lots of agency, then you realize that these things barely existed in System Shock.
Yeah. Right.
So, in my opinion, like people always want to have a perfect definition, perfect standards for immersive sims, but
Right.
Well, from my opinion, it leads to more gatekeeping. People say this is an immersive sim, this is not an immersive sim. But when you say something is or isn't an immersive sim, you are drawing a line on a spectrum, which doesn't make much sense, right?
Right, right. I think something that's interesting that just to make note of is while you were beginning to describe this, first you said improving a definition or improving a genre, and then you started saying evolving. And you kept saying evolving. You stopped saying improving. And I think it's because evolving probably is a more accurate word for this,
Yeah.
right? It's because like people might be tempted to say improving, that like it's better or sort of like zeroing in almost. But I think like evolution in all things, that like evolving is about not stagnating. It's about like not staying the same. Like I mean literally through evolution it's like we might have similarities with our ancestors, but we are no longer our furthest back ancestors by any, like if you looked at the two of us, right? Like they'd be like, no, those are, the human mind would perceive us and our millions of years ancestors ago as two completely different things. And I think that like holding the same mindset for not only genres, because it's kind of like, I don't know, it becomes a weird conversation too when you say like, well, why do we even have words for this kind of stuff? But I think the point that you're making is that I really agree with fundamentally, is that like drawing lines, I think probably in the end is a stifling frame of mind, is like a very narrow way. And that was like something happened recently, the whole, do you see that thing recently how like people are like, I don't know why everybody got so, this sparked so much conversation, but Warren Spector was like, the future of immersive sims is multiplayer.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I don't know, I don't really know why. I want to ask you why in a second, but like just on that note, because I think this is like a related thing, is like I saw people out there who are going like, well, I don't think so, and I don't know, it's a very single player this and that. I'm like, so far, yeah.
Yeah.
So far. Like, so I made that tweet that just said like, I was being sarcastic. I was like, no, stop using your imagination. Immersive sims are only single player. Don't like imagine new horizons, like just stop there, leave it at that, like, and I try not to be an asshole on Twitter, but like that was one of those things where it's just like I would like to call sort of like foolishness or narrow-mindedness to that
like
kind of thing.
ignorance or something.
Right.
Yeah. Also talking about you talk about like ancestors. I have an interesting thought, like because I read from a sci-fi book or something, probably Three Body Problem. Like our humans have evolved like rapidly in the last like 3,000 years, right? But it's essentially our brains are still as advanced as a primal person, like from 3,000 years ago. The
Right.
same brain, but we managed to learn like quantum physics, like game design, going to space and stuff. So basically, I think immersive sims can be the same. Like although it's a spectrum, right? But if you draw the line at the more advanced side, like you can say, you can build very futuristic, very advanced, very complicated games based on primal rules, primal definitions. Like you can still make someone from 3,000 years ago. Like let's say there's a baby born from 3,000 years ago.
Yeah, yeah.
You bring him to nowadays.
Right.
I think you can still teach him like quantum physics without no problem.
Right.
So this
Or
is
at
what I
least
think,
with the
like,
same difficulty for quantum physics as you and I would have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True. It's the same thing. Like if there's a simple definition that works perfectly on System Shock. I mean, just like one or two lines, like simply like define this game genre. Like our future immersive sims can be defined on that same definition too. I mean, be it single player, multiplayer, co-op, like systemic, top-down, asymmetric, first person, third person. It doesn't matter.
Right.
It will still work.
It becomes like an additive process. Like in the beginning, it was fewer things, and then as time goes on, it becomes a more, I guess complex is the right word, or varied. It becomes a more varied thing. There's more sort of traits to define it by. This makes me curious then. Let's start simply here.
Sure.
What what did you grow up playing? Because it makes me wonder too. Like if you were in China too, like I don't know what
Yeah,
the
yeah. As a
different.
Chinese, I grew up didn't play many games. Like, I think I played Super Mario Brothers 1
Hmm.
around the end of 20th century on a Windows PC that runs like two systems. So I played Super Mario Brothers on DOS,
Sure.
Microsoft DOS. So it
Right.
was it was piracy from the very beginning. And after that, I think I played one of the Might and Magic games, but I don't remember anything because I didn't beat it. I don't understand anything because it was in English. I know
Mm.
nothing about English at the time. So, and after that, I think the first game. Oh no, like talking about Super Mario Brothers, I never made it to the third level. So, as a kid,
Right.
and the first game I beat is a very popular game in China. It's Command and Conquer Red Alert 2. I
Mm.
think it
Okay.
beats like both campaigns on the Allies and the Soviet side.
Sure.
And after that, another game I beat was probably like 5, 6 years later. It was Prince of Persia 4 from
Okay.
2008 Ubisoft. I think after that I barely played anything. Like it's just some Call of Duty games like Call of Duty 5, 4, 7, 8, 9. Then I until I met Dishonored.
Mm.
So
Which
that's
was
basically
around when?
my.
How like around how old were you when you played Dishonored?
I played Dishonored around 17-ish, I think.
Also, how old are you now?
I prefer to
Not say?
keep a secret. Yeah.
Okay, okay, sure, 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 sure.
I was
I
born.
imagine you're in your 20s. I'm just well, just to get a
No, no, no.
just
I was
ballpark
born in
for.
one of the years that a Shock games was released.
Okay, sure, sure.
So it's either System Shock 1, System Shock 2, or Bioshock.
Okay, but going back, you were a teenager when you were playing Dishonored.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah,
And
you were giving me the timeline of you then you played Dishonored around teenager.
yeah. So important games: Super Mario Brothers, Prince of Persia, then Dishonored. After Dishonored, no, at the time I was a fan of steampunk. That's why I played Dishonored. But I was kind
Mm,
of blown away by this all these superpowers and stealth mechanics.
right.
But I didn't know anything about immersive sims. I didn't know anything about Arcane. I didn't know they're making a sequel. So I just went on to play other games,
Hmm.
some indie games and some until someone, but I think it was a college classmate of mine who recommended Bioshock to me. He said like there's a game called Bioshock Infinite. It's not Bioshock One, but Bioshock
Mm,
Infinite. It shares the similar like oil painting-ish aesthetic and some steampunk theme.
right, right.
You will be interested. So I played it. After I played, I thought, whoa, this multi-timeline thing is kind of cool, but I don't quite like the gameplay. Is there like previous games or something like I would be interested?
Mm,
People say like Bioshock Infinite is from System Shock. From there are other two Bioshocks like set in like underworld cities. So I played these.
mm,
So at the time, I was a fan of Ken Levine's previous work. I like Bioshock One. I like System Shock Two.
mm, right.
Then I was like Bioshock Two. So at the time, I was a Bioshock fan. But yeah, I played Bioshock and Bioshock 1 and System Shock 2 around 2015, 16, I think.
Mm.
Then I met Prey, that everything changed.
Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I'm
So
kind of boring. I don't know how to make it sound more interesting. Sorry.
right, no, no, no. It's funny to me because like that's I mean that says plenty, right? It's like you played everything and then everything changed when you played Prey. Is that I mean it's kind of funny because a few people already kind of called their shot in your tournament, your roster that you're making right now. A few people are already like, oh, he's gonna pick Prey. Um, and I was kind of thinking the same thing too, because just because of how I've heard you speak about it before. Um, and now, yeah, now that you're kind of saying this too, your tee up is that like you played all these things, but then you played Prey. What it, like what was that experience like when you first played it? Like how can you kind of like recollect just the general like emotional experience or like what stood out to you so much?
I think around 2016, when Mankind Divided and Dishonored 2 came out, my computer couldn't run Dishonored 2 at a good frame rate, so I didn't play it.
Mm-hmm.
And the early 2017, I was playing Hollow Knight, which was released around March or April.
Mm-hmm.
And then some other like Metroidvania games at the time, like indie games in general. But then I saw this game constantly coming on news, all the controversies about it, like Bethesda's review copy policy, the IP of Prey, the first Prey from 2006 made by Human Head Studios. And then after that, I didn't play Prey on launch as well. It's like after a few days after Prey was released, there's another controversy with IGN, which gave Prey a 4.
Mm.
So I was just following all this news. Like, what game is this? But it doesn't seem good. It didn't seem good, so I don't want to play it.
Mm-hmm.
Until a guy, an Indian guy, I met on Steam forums and who really loves playing horror games.
Mm.
And one day he saw me playing Hollow Knight because Hollow Knight has like constant updates and stuff. So I was just playing one of the updates of Hollow Knight. He came to the Steam chat to talk with me. He's like, "You're playing Hollow Knight. Like, are you into Metroidvania?" I said, "Yeah, Metroidvanias are cool. Like, you explore. I love exploring. You explore all kinds of different places. You have new powers and stuff. Like, oh, I think you." Then he just told me, "I think you would really be interested in Prey, which is basically Metroidvania but in 3D." Also, there is I think it's around July or August. Prey had a demo coming out like 2-3 months after its release, but it wasn't too late. So he told me there's a demo, you should try it. I mean, whatever how far you progressed, you can do how to keep playing it in the official game after you bought it. So I said sure, I'll try it. Then I was blown away. I mean, Prey's opening hour is pretty strong, probably the strongest in any immersive sim. So I was blown away. I bought the game immediately.
Right.
And I think Prey was also the first game I tried to get all Steam achievements. It took me like 4 or 5 playthroughs, like different
Shit.
human builds, typhoon builds, like or like no powers at all, and all that. It was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And
Every single
then,
time. So you enjoyed it just as thoroughly every time getting those achievements.
Yeah.
Because some people get fatigue even with their favorite games. Some people get a little like worn out.
Yeah, at the time I think I was so energetic. I was just into the game like deeply. I explore everything. I go everywhere.
Yeah.
So at the time I think it was the game that made me, oh, I want to know more about this game. I want to go online, search about it. So I was browsing like some articles in Chinese, like talking about game. Then I met a girl called Yulo Tomorrow. If you don't know her, like she's the first person I look up to. At the time, she was studying in America, I think. She went to the E3. She was a Fallout 4 fan and Bethesda in general. She went to Bethesda's E3 event, or like I don't know, a pre-launch like test play event. She tried Prey, and she was blown away by it. She became a massive fan of Prey. She started playing Prey on launch, doing the same thing I did like a few months later.
Mm-hmm.
She wrote articles about it. She did like prop arts, like making like small like mimics or like weapons cool. In Prey. Eventually, she did a costume of Prey, like the helmet, the clothes and stuff. She wore it to the 2018 E3 Bethesda. And I think she also gave like a prop, like a helmet to Bethesda or Arcane or something. So I was like, wow, as a player, you can do this much.
Yeah.
I was so shocked. Like, I thought games are just meant to play. You play, you finish it, you drop it, you go on. There's nothing much you can do about it. You can write articles, you can do this fun stuff.
Right, you can express your admiration.
I was impressed. I got so much motivation from it. So I just, I want to know more about this. I can do props, I can do cosplay and stuff. I was like, maybe I can focus on what Prey stands for, the design philosophy behind it, the studios behind it. So I went on to play more immersive sims, and after that I became friends with her and joined. We had a little immersive sim player group in China.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Then I got interested. are there like any newer games coming out? Because at the time, 2017, 2018 it was widely called the death of immersive sim by mainstream media.
Uh-huh.
So I was like, whoa, I just came into the scene and now it's dead. So I was like, is there anything new coming out? Then I realized it's mostly indies. So I started to gather the information about indie immersive sims and share it into the group. But eventually, I mean, the group was like just a dozen people, dozen of people. So I thought maybe I can have a bigger platform. But eventually, I came onto Twitter.
Right. So that's interesting. This group that you had was in 2018.
The group I joined was late 2017.
That's crazy. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's interesting because like I feel like a lot of talk, and I'm sort of, even though I've seen the word float around further back than this, I really sort of have gauged how immersive sim has entered popular culture's like vocabulary, right? Just the phrase immersive sim,
Yeah.
right? Um, I've been mostly gauging that based off of how old the most popular YouTube videos are, which are only a few years, right? Which kind of start really close to the pandemic, basically. And there's like, when you start digging deeper, you do start seeing like articles and stuff. And then, of course, there are like, yeah, things on Reddit and other miscellaneous media that does go further back. But like, you have to dig for those things, right? They take a little more effort.
Mm.
So that is interesting to hear that you were there. You were in the weeds, kind of like with people when they thought like, oh, are we ever going to even see any more of these types of games too? Which is interesting because that was also kind of before the whole indie like imsim renaissance. Like I can't really imagine too many people were building anything that looked like that back then. That's crazy. That's really interesting. Yeah, what has your experience been like on Twitter? Like how has like integrating yourself and like meeting people and finding community and stuff? What has that process like been like for you? Like,
Uh, Initially, I was just posting some like pre fan art,
that
and I
you
was
made or
like,
somebody else?
no, I made some, but
You
well,
did?
you had to dig all the way to start my Twitter to see them. But please don't do it.
I'm gonna do it now
And
later. I have to go see it now.
so at the time, I just came to Tokyo. Like, I met a developer who worked on. I'm not sure if you heard about the game, the Void Bastards.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was playing a
I
little
met
bit
a
of that last
developer
year.
who worked on it and had a meeting with them, like just drinking alcohol in the izakaya and stuff.
Yeah.
So at the time, I was like, oh, I can actually have connections with these foreign people in English. I mean, I was so introverted. I was shy. I never talked to anybody.
Hmm.
So I was like, oh, well, I'm gonna hop on Twitter and post a fan art of Void Bastards. And then after that, I post Prey fan art from time to time. But that was like Asian times. I don't remember much.
Sure.
And then it was until 2022. I mean, I played this indie game called Control of Evil, right?
Mm.
It was so good, but the developer was so not confident about the game having being known to players.
Sure.
So he had a 40% off launch discount. I was like,
That's
what?
crazy.
What the hell are you doing?
Yeah.
So I play the game because of the discount. I was like, why is he so unconfident? I'm gonna try this game and see how it is.
Yeah.
And it blown me away.
Right.
So I was like, oh, maybe I can help him a little. So I hop on Twitter and I tweet about like how I love the game, and he would react back. So it kind of like I help him like a little bit, and then he helps me a little bit. So after a while, like I start to talk about other indie immersive sims. Like around the time, like late 2022, there's Gloomwood, there's Deadeye, Deepfake Simulacrum, and there's some other games that I don't quite remember.
Yeah.
So I just start talking about these games in general. Then I think one day I thought maybe I can make a compilation image, a collage image of all these upcoming immersive sims. I made an image, I posted, and like 30 people. I got like 30 likes or 20 likes. I was like, wow, this is the most likes I have ever gotten.
Sure.
So I was like, whoa. So there is really a need for curation on
Yep.
Twitter.
Seriously.
So I started doing that. Occasionally I talk about my feelings about a certain immersive sim, how I look forward to this upcoming immersive sim. I make a curated image, a list, and eventually people start to interact with me. Also, yeah, I always believe that if you are friendly, modest uh, to people, you would attract people that are similar to you.
Hmm.
So I think I'm quite lucky. Like people around me are all friendly, passionate, like you. So I'm pretty lucky.
Thanks.
Really appreciate it.
Yeah. And you know what? So thanks. But also I agree. Um, that like it's been a pretty I do sort of chalk it up to our lack of supply for our massive demand, right?
Mm.
Like
Yeah.
it is interesting sort of being a part of a group who wants such a specific thing, um who has a word for that thing too, right? Like there's some interesting things about like kind of always searching for something that is even like it, right? And this is something that's adjacent. Is I feel like a sort of related topic to like the idea of like what we were talking about earlier, which is like what even is the definition, right? And I kind of feel like that's a part of what the community is too, of kind of like it is like an inclusive thing. It is like a welcoming thing of like, hey, that's a little bit like this too, and hey, that's not quite what we know, but this is something that is it's getting so close to what I want that we'll just say it is what we're looking for, and it does fall into this thing. And yeah, it's been really fascinating. It on one hand, yes, the people have been really sweet in general because of like I don't know, whatever their personalities, but I also think there is almost like a an energy of like we need to work together to get more imsims.
True.
It's like we're banding together to solve the same problem, which is make more games like this. So there's sort of a collective effort, I feel like.
Yeah. I mean, the community is also like a spectrum. Like the spectrum on the one side is like people saying, "Oh, this is not an immersive sim. BioShock is not an immersive sim. System Shock is not an
So
immersive sim.
dumb.
Like we only have immersive sims like Deus Ex, Dishonored. This is all we have. This is all we need." And on the other side is like enthusiastic, passionate fans about like us. Like we constantly look for influence, inspirations in other games. Like Baldur's Gate 3 was inspired by Dishonored. We are constantly looking for this kind of information. Like more like tiny bits of the design philosophy. And so I tend to lean on this side of the spectrum more, like people who are passionate, people who are always on the lookout for new things.
Hmm.
And I believe most indie immersive sim developers are also on this side. They're
Right.
making familiar stuff but innovative and feels refreshing, new,
Right.
and small scale. So yeah, our goal is like kind of build on this side of the spectrum to make the community stronger, more inclusive, and more how to say welcoming to a change.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, that's interesting because what you said right now is that the developers especially hold that, because I don't think I've ever heard from any developers that have the narrow definition. You know, it's
Some
like
of the do, but it's not a major how to say it's not a dominant voice. So
it is not. Yeah, it's like the only people I feel like the only people I've ever heard that from are only the players, and yeah, they are the minority who say that. But I think that's telling, right? Because the people who are sort of like paving the way and who can see in the future, they'll end up being the ones who wrote that history, and they're the ones who have a bigger influence and impact on like all the cool shit we're gonna be able to see. Whereas all the other people who are sort of, I don't know, grumpy and angry and bitter and have very like narrow focused ideas, they'll who cares? Fuck them. So that being said, too, this some by the way, like I'll preface this with we don't have to talk about this at all, but I just want to ask is that like you've also like faced like harassment. You've said that people have been sort of nasty to you on the internet, which is totally in contrast to everything that we just said about like people being so sweet. And I'm just wondering like how you doing and like how have you how have you sort of like held up against that kind of stuff?
Oh, I'm totally fine now. It's like about around the first half of 2023. Like I think it was one of the first time I mentioned I'm from China or something. Like somebody sent me a DM like saying some racist words to me and say like go back to your fucking country or something.
Mm,
So I was quite upset about it. And I mean I consider myself like a very fragile to this kind of comments. So I was really upset about it. And I think there was also one time like uh yeah, someone at the on Reddit from the immersive sims subreddit invited me to be their moderator.
mm,
I think I mentioned this somewhere on Discord, and there's a an active member of a indie immersive sim server like came to me like saying that fuck you, the Reddit Nazi or something, fuck you,
mm,
like on mods they're losers or something.
right.
So basically, they don't matter. I eventually came over that awful feeling about it. But after, yeah, around the end of June, May 2023, there was some drastic changes in my life. So at the time, I was struggling like mentally, financially, all sorts of stuff, and like some family members are dying.
I'm
So
sorry.
I quitted Twitter for half a year. Uh, but yeah, those were all in the past. Now I'm back on my feet and I'm doing pretty well. Thank you for asking.
Good, good. I mean, yeah, I've been able to witness your comeback, but hearing that like there were other things sort of stacking on top of all that shit, that sucks. You didn't deserve any more than the other things that were already happening in your life. So, that makes me especially happy to hear that you got through it. So that's awesome. Um, it's crazy, man. Like I don't know. Um, I guess it's the bigoted parts, right? I guess that's what the attack was. Like I was about to say, like I'm over here trying to like rationalize, like how does somebody be that big of a piece of shit? And then it's like, oh yeah, it has absolutely nothing to do with the community that we're in, and everything to do with that own person's personal like hangups and their problems and their bigoted like foolish thinking, you know. So um, yeah. Anyways, glad that's over with.
It's over.
Yeah, glad it's over with. Um, so the let's like putting a cap on that. What was great too is that like you voicing that kind of stuff happened. It's like everybody just like came out and was like, nah, like we fucking love you, and it was just like everybody who I knew from the community was coming
Yeah.
out and like saying like such nice things, and it was like they weren't even saying nice things. They weren't saying nice things to me, but it made me feel really good to see. It made me really happy to see their support of you. And that was like a nice moment. So
Yeah. The
um,
community is really warm-hearted and very kind to me, and they always encouraging me like Sinno, you don't deserve that.
right.
And also, you're doing great, and you can do better. I really appreciate them.
Yeah.
And during the absence from Twitter in 2023, like many people send me like tons of DMs, like asking if I'm okay.
Mm,
I mean, eventually I read all of them, but because I'm not really good at tweeting and replying to people, so I didn't reply to many of them. But if anyone's watching this video, I'm sorry, but I really thank you for sending me DMs, asking me if I'm okay, sending your messages and stuff. I really appreciate it.
there you have it. Um, So, some of the people that I've seen you chatting with on Twitter, by the way, are kind of big deals. Kind of some big names that I've seen you chatting with and like retweeting things that you say and kind of like in general interaction. And when I say big deal, I'm talking about like the studio developers, some of the more famous like studio names that have come out and who have talked. And you know, I've made the smallest of chats and tweets between some as well, and I've seen it. Same thing with Alice, and same thing with Lewis, and a few of the other indies out there. And I'm just curious, like, yeah, what have your feelings been like, like interacting with some of the people who made the games that inspired this love to begin with?
Uh, it's a really strange feeling that people I look up to, they finally uh, are interacting with me. It feels very special. Also, like I mentioned before, like the first person I look up to, Yulo tomorrow, like massive Bethesda fan. I feel like everybody at Arcane, Austin at the time,
Mm.
knew her, and they loved her. So
Mm.
basically, like my goal was like, oh, I really want to be to the same level as Yulo. I want to
Sure.
be as welcoming as how to say, uh, well regarded
Mm.
as her. So my goal was like I want to promote indie immersive sims. I want to talk about immersive sim, my experience in it, my experience in the community. I want to help the community. But if I want to help the indie community, I mean, indies are still in the minority of the whole scene, right?
Yeah.
There's big studios like Arcane. There's big studio run by Ken Levine. There's the Idols Montreal, like who makes the XX. So most people play those games like they don't even know there's an indie revolution going on. So
Yeah, that's
if I want to
crazy.
help, if I want to help, if, although I'm a small account myself, but if I want to help those smaller developers, I gotta have the attention of more uh,
Like the
people from
studios.
the from the bigger scene. So basically,
Right.
yeah. So my Twitter, I mean, I'm not a professional marketing person, but sometimes I do try to take a marketing approach. I wanna split my thinking into a thinking and output into like three different categories. Sometimes I want to be a media reporter. I report the scene. I talk about big games. I talk about indie games. Sometimes I want to understand the difficulties of indie developers, and sometimes I want to understand the bigger AAA studios. So basically, bigger studios, indie studios, media, and players. Myself, I want to understand how each of them are going, are living by, what are they doing, what are they thinking. So my output tweets are about the same. When I talk about bigger games, talk about games from Arcane, I want to get their attention because if I get their attention, eventually some of those interactions, some of those traffic will transform into attentions for indie games. So
Right.
yeah, like you can say like 80% of the interaction with bigger names, genuine happiness I got from them because I look up to them. I love their work. I would love to be a part of their future, but then 20% of that interactions is like I hope it could attract some attentions from the console players, like AAA game players. Like if it would be great if they can play some of these upcoming indie games.
I see. Yeah. So it sounds like uh, that's interesting. So what you're saying is that like it's it comes from a genuine place that you are interacting with these people who made things that you really loved, but there's also sort of like this side of you that is, while genuinely doing that, trying to also leverage those moments
Yeah.
to kind of put a spotlight on indies, which is awesome, which I think is great, and I think that's totally it's a would you it's like a framework or a method that I've been in love with my whole life, for it's so like applicable to other things, which is to sort of like um to kind of like to leverage power through already established powers, right? Kind of like it's like the Sun Tzu thing of like destroy your enemy from within or whatever. You know, like you can kind of like be. I don't want to say that AAA is the enemy or anything, but it's just like as a way of of leveraging established power. So I think that's awesome. I think that's cool. That's a really great motivation to kind of like be interacting with all these cool people.
I'm not fully there yet, so I'm still working on it.
Sure, slow baby steps, and you know, you're
Yeah,
honestly you're making good way. I mean, the
I'm
scene.
taking examples from like big people with bigger followings. Like I mean, like the developer of Gloomwood, the publisher of Gloomwood. Like whenever, it's always lovely whenever you see Dylan Rogers, like when
Yeah.
he retweets some indie games, or like Dave Oshry. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. Forgive me.
Sure.
Whenever Dave like quote retweets some indie games, it always brought a lot of attention to that game. So I mean, also the FPS dude. I don't know how to pronounce his name either. FPS Aesthetics.
Yeah.
So whenever he retweets some indie like boomer shooter or other FPS games, like it brings a lot of attention. So I mean, I remember interacting with him once. Like he told me, like I mean, just a single button pressing, you can make one's day. That's great. I wish someday I can have that big following that can make someone's day.
Right. I was going to ask, well, I have a couple questions. First is, do you have any sort of like, and forgive me if you mentioned this in passing earlier in the conversation. I don't know if you did or not, but one, do you have any like background in like education for journalism and anything like that of like, okay, is it anything that you've been like looking into more, like studying or trying to find resources for kind of how to do this type of work?
My college major was in mechanical engineering and then like semiconductors, green energy and stuff.
That's sick. First
And
of all, that's rad.
I mean, originally after I graduated college, I got an offer from Samsung, but I didn't go there. I came to Japan to study, to further my study. But during the time in Japan, I had a brief period of part-time work at a Chinese gaming media.
I see.
So for a few months, like learning like how to do professional journalism. I think once I did a PR article for Rogue Galaxy 2, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
So I mean, it was just a few months, but I learned a lot from it. But I mean, when I came onto Twitter, everything has to be in English. So I'm still an amateur. So, but you can say I have a few knowledge about it. Also, at the time, I like analyzed the Japanese game market, analyzed the console market, how Xbox is gaining like popularity in Japan,
Well, that's
and how they
interesting.
lost it, and how indie games are struggling, how the like Steam algorithm and stuff. So you can say I know a little bit about the marketing, but when it comes to social media, I still don't know much. So I'm still learning. I mean, I want to make gameplay videos that can go viral. I want to make like one-liners. I can't like what I think you can kind of see like I'm not really good at English when you look at my tweets. Most of my tweets are always like 140 words, like pushing the limit because I cannot make my sentences shorter. I don't know how to make it short and still powerful, still convey the same message. And
If I may
I
interject for
tried.
just a moment,
Sure.
that I'll speak for myself, but I feel like a lot of people would agree with me here, is that based off of only your tweets, one doesn't really get the impression that you don't speak English very well. I mean, to be quite honest, even right now, accent and a few grammatical things aside, you're speaking very well. You're speaking very, very well. It's like it's beyond functional. It's like it's beyond
Yeah,
functional fluency.
but you wouldn't believe it. It was barely functional like when it when I first came to Japan, so I had to work on it for quite some
Okay.
time.
I'm just saying because you made the comment about your tweets, and I'm like, nah, that's bullshit. Because I read your tweets, and I'm like, oh yeah, like somebody who speaks fluent English wrote this.
Yeah, but like when you are Chinese who lives in Japan, but you try to speak English, like type English every day, you eventually improve, right?
Yeah. Sure. Sorry, I interrupted. I don't know where you were at and of all that.
I don't remember either.
Okay, let me get to the next thing I was going to ask you, which is just that like, what are your do you have any sort of like like, do you have like a roadmap, any plans, or sort of like what sort of things are you thinking about doing? Because right now you did just mention doing a gameplay video, like oh, what it would be like to make a viral gameplay video or a hit tweet or something like that. Like, what are some of the things that you're trying to do, or maybe that haven't done yet?
Yeah, for this year, I want to try to make like one or two videos on immersive sims. I mean, YouTube generally, like I would say, reaches more people in a wider audience.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, before I came into the scene, I watch a lot of videos on immersive sims as well. So I think it's a really good medium to 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 promote my ideology about the inclusiveness and
Absolutely.
yeah, and I don't know how to say it. Anyway, it's just making videos to reach a wider audience.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wanted to talk about immersives. I also want to make some video clips. I mean, if you see the video I tweeted yesterday, it's a clip about Dishonored 2.
I didn't see it.
took
Was it something
me-
that you made?
Yeah, it's something I scripted. I try to figure out how the AI in the Clockwork Mansion works.
Oh shit! I need to go see that. Okay, okay.
Yeah,
Noted,
it's
noted.
like one minute video. I mean, if you want to watch it now, you can watch it.
Yeah, I'll watch it after this. But I had no idea.
It's like, I mean, I sometimes watch those gameplay videos. I mean, especially from New Blood. I mean, Dave is a marketing genius. He hires those talented people in marketing. I mean, there's a talented artist who does really cool gameplay videos in Gloomwood.
Right.
And there's
Those little 60-second
yeah,
clips.
yeah. The artist Blasco? Yeah, his name is Blasco. And there's another guy they've hired to do like more like TikTok, Instagram Reels side of social media, like doing like horizontal videos.
Right. The verticals.
Vertical. Sorry. Like his name is Wepo. I don't know how to pronounce it. So basically, I wanna learn a little bit of that, like, because making a gameplay video, like a skilled, although scripted, but skilled gameplay video will bring some attention to this. So eventually, I want to make more like gameplay clips on indie immersive sim. Like you can do these crazy combos or like solving a complex puzzle with in-game system for like in Control of Ego in like future games like Peripateia. So yeah, I want to make videos. And on the other side, I want to learn some professional marketing for indie games to get prepared if I get a slightly like 1% of chance to join a studio to help make a great game greater. So on my Twitter side, I want to try to make videos. Long-term plan, I want to become a professional marketing person, which I'm not there yet. And yeah, about like promotion for indie immersive sims, like my list for immersive sims are not quite complete. I want to complete it sometime this year.
You mean like as far as playing them?
No. It's like making the information more complete. Right now, it's still tons of work in progress, like placeholders and stuff. If you see my list recently, but it's not finished.
Okay, you're talking about like the little archive then, like a database.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the discovery queue thing.
Right.
And yeah, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to talk about it right now, but me and Shodanon, the developer of Peripateia, we are planning to make an event for indie immersive sims.
Oh.
So I cannot tell any detail about it, but I would love to ask you here. Would you love to join it?
Sure. I don't even know what that means, but
I'd
yeah.
love to see Memories of a Spy there.
Oh,
It would
sure.
be so cool.
Do you?
Okay.
Yeah. Again, whenever you get the details sorted, go ahead and just message me.
Okay,
That sounds
perfect.
awesome. That sounds very exciting. For the sake of when I edit this later, do you want me to leave out, or can I leave in at least the part where you mention it?
No, it's fine. You can keep all of it.
Okay, cool. Sure. Right. Cool. I get a juicy exclusive. Yeah.
It will be around the end of this year or the beginning of next year. So
I think I will have something very, very much ready by then.
I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Yeah. I did just like literally only an hour ago did I finally publish like a YouTube video and a Twitter video that just showed some of the gameplay from the playtest, which just went live. So
Right.
I'm collecting everybody's playtest requests, but before I accept all of them, I just wanted to like process some of the like I made a Google form just to collect some information first. But yeah, so that's where I'm at as far as like when you mentioned the date, I was like, okay, that lines up nice because I'm starting to hit the marks, you know. Yeah. So okay, your aspirations of like what you want to do with this kind of work, then like it sounds like you're getting into like the video stuff, but also like does that mean events in general is something that you're thinking about too? Because what you're doing right now does remind me of this your tournament thing. It is a very small version of kind of holding an event, right? It's kind of like you planning it out over a few days. It keeps everybody excited. It engages the community a lot, right? Even if they're just commenting in a thread and stuff, like that's a really great way to engage with the community. Like even that itself, I feel like is a pretty cool event.
Yeah, I just love to experimenting like different stuff. Like sometimes it's a tournament like polls and stuff. Sometimes it's like gameplay, like what like asking people what they are playing, what they think about this game, or sometimes it's like some information from myself, like that I curated. Yeah, all kinds of like stuff. If I can do it, sometimes I want to try to do a one-liner. Sometimes I want to make a joke. Sometimes I want to draw something. I want to try all kinds of stuff.
Right.
I mean, eventually it will become part of the knowledge. I don't know.
How is the this tournament coming along right now? What are we like? There's only like 2 days left, right? Or a day left?
For you and everybody that's watching this interview, I want to admit that I rigged the whole tournament.
Of course. Right. Wait. Are you saying rigged just because like you wanted to give the illusion that you were collecting input from the threads, like counting votes?
No. I rigged the seeding from the very beginning. That I know Prey and DSX is gonna meet in the final.
Oh, okay.
And
so you half rigged
like,
it.
For 80% of the matches, I know the result like from the very start because I can just kind of predict it. So I kind of shuffle them around, like see. But I mean, from the surface, I have very valid reasons for grouping them that way. I mean, there's a System Shock group, there's a like Thief group, and there's like Arx Fatalis and Ultima Underworld group. Then there's Bioshock 2, Dark Messiah, Deathloop. It's like action, a very action-oriented like immersive sim group. And on the outside, there's DSX group. There's a unconventional immersive sim group like I Divine Cybermancy and like a vampire game. And then the a quarter of the tournament is indie immersive sim. I have 8 of them out of 32. So on the surface, I have very good valid reasons for them to be there. And
I agree. By the
there
way,
are some people who are not happy about like how I group these games, but I mean, eventually it's for fun. I mean,
right?
Don't be too serious about it.
Right.
I mean, some developers are not happy that I put their games there to lose against another game, but I kind of see more positive side of it because, I mean, there are more games I can choose from. I mean, even just at the time, like April 2024, there are more than 8 games I can choose.
Mm-hmm.
I can choose. Like, I mean, there's also a lot of games from the last decade I didn't pick into the tournament. So I think picking the 8 indie games there, although they will lose to each other, eventually they will lose to Deus Ex. But it's meaningful to put them there, to have eyes on them, right?
Right.
And anyway, so I had some good reasons for putting them that way. But eventually, I know this tournament is gonna become 2 of my favorite immersive sims match. It's gonna be Prey against Deus Ex. But
right.
I don't know how this will go in the end. I think Deus Ex will win. Who knows? By the time this video goes live, probably Deus Ex is already on number 1.
Right.
Yeah.
I do. It's funny because you keep sort of trying to like qualify your decision. You keep saying like I had a good reason. These are good reasons, and like it's just so like it's funny because people do get really riled up about like what they think is like fair. It's like dude, it's just for fun.
People don't like popularity contest.
Yeah. You know, the thing is like I would get it if the games you were putting in a tournament were like newly released tiny indie games, right? That would be maybe distasteful, right? Where it's like you put a bunch of small games that just came out back to back. But like you're putting the biggest games of all time against each other. It's like they don't need to win that. If you took all the ones that lost in that first round and you asked the developers, do you care? They're like I don't give a shit. Like,
Yeah.
I'm glad I got to be on the list. They would probably say,
If you look at the games that lost in the first round, there are Thief 1, there's
amazing.
System Shock 1,
Yeah.
there's BioShock 2, and then, I mean, 4 indie games. They're all solid games. I mean, for people who don't know, like, if you look at the 8 indie games, like Steam rating on their store pages, you will see the 8 games, 8 indie immersive sims have an average of 96% overwhelmingly positive
Yeah,
rate.
that's
And on
insane.
average, that's insane.
Yeah.
Really.
So,
So yeah, I wish people can like have some attention on these games that lost. I mean, eventually Gloomwood also lost to Deus Ex, right? So 8 indie games all lost, but these are all amazing, well done, good games to try.
right, right. I think that's like probably the best thing. That's like the best thing to take away from it is just that it put eyes on it, and like when you see, I think that's something that you see in like communities where it's like when you witness other fans of a game being very vocal about a game, that can inspire you to finally check it out. Like I watch all these YouTubers who in the beginning there are games where I wasn't so interested in, but then just seeing them talk about it over and over and over and over again, I was like, you know what? They really like this game. Like for me, a couple years ago, I finally played Stalker, Shadows of Chernobyl, the first one, and like it was only because like in the beginning I didn't really have any interest in it, but I heard about it so often from so many people that it was sort of like I couldn't ignore it anymore. And then I finally booted it up, and I'm glad I did. And I feel like, yeah, similarly, you just see threads like this, and in the thing that you're making, just like hearing the community like make their votes and say why. The function is just the same, which is attention, and that's great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I want to
So
mention one thing.
what?
There's a story in ancient China. It's like there's a smart old guy who goes by to the riverside, and he uses a straight hook to fish. A straight hook with no bait on it, and then he doesn't even look at the water. He turns his back to the water and puts the fishing rod there with a straight hook with no bait on it. But his purpose is to attract people to ask why are you doing this way. Eventually, the king, the emperor of his country, came by to ask why are you doing this? How can you fish this way without bait, without a normal hook, without looking at it? He's like, because I'm waiting for the right fish to come up, which is you. So basically, eventually the emperor or king invited him to, because he's smart, he's old, he's a wise old man, to eventually the king invited him to help him to govern the country. Eventually the country became a very powerful country on the east side of China. So in this part, I also share this mentality that you can't force someone to buy a game. You can't force someone to try an indie game.
Right.
I mean, keep talking about it is a good way, but eventually they make the decision.
Yeah.
So if they really want to try it, eventually, sooner or later, it's going to happen. So from my perspective, I want to use a straight hook. I don't want to put bait on it. I don't want to look at it. If you want to try it, sure. There's like a progress bar. Like, I mean, I talk about it more, but I don't force you. I don't bait you. But eventually, if your progress bar is full, like this is the time you buy the game, you try the game, you play the game.
Right. See, I think what I'm going to do when Memories of a Spy comes out is I'm going to go around with a baseball bat with barbed wire wrapped around it. And I'm just going to threaten people to buy my game. I'm just going to say, like, I'll beat you over the fucking head with this if you don't buy my game right now. That's just how I roll. I don't, I'm not going to hope that the merits of the game, I have to make a good game. No, you just threaten people. Just threaten their lives. That's how you get sales. That's how you get stuff done. Yeah, why don't you do it that way?
I don't want to further threaten people because I don't know. It just it's against my morals.
No, Sinno, you don't get it. Just go buy a gun. Just go buy a gun or get some rope or do something and just scare them into playing these games. If I buy a gun here in the States and then mail it to you over there, can you just go out in the street with a laptop with my Memories of a Spy Steam page open, with a credit card information and the gun, and just go buy this game and just walk around getting Japanese citizens to buy my game?
No, you know what? I'm gonna make a copy of the gun that killed Abe Shinzo. You know, the,
Wait, the copy of the gun who killed who?
Abe Shinzo. He was killed by a homemade like duct taped gun
Oh,
with
I didn't
like
realize
steel balls
that.
in it.
The politician over there, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That's dark. That's also
Well, I mean, it was over, but maybe it's not good to talk about this on the interview. If you want to cut it out, it's just cut it out. So
okay.
what I'm saying is, sure, I'll take your advice. I'll just go on the street, like go on the street of the Shibuya Scramble or something. Like,
Right.
would you take a look at this game, like Spinal Memory
Right.
game? Try it.
You probably could translate it directly to memory.
Yeah, it's like Spinal Memory.
Spinal. Yeah, I guess you would say it backwards too. All right, yeah, that's a good one. Perfect. I like it. That's how we'll do it. That's how I'm gonna reach the Japanese market. Okay. This is starting to wind down. This is really starting to get off the rails right now. So I do wanna start wrapping this up, and I want to ask. What do I want to ask? There's one thing I'm sure you've seen in the other interviews. I ask people, like, have they ever gotten emotional during a game and cried during a game? So I'm gonna ask you that. But if you just give me a moment, I just kind of want to reflect for just a moment and consider if there's anything else, because I thought of a lot of things while we were speaking.
Take your time.
Yeah. I think that would be a good place to end it. Okay, yeah. So then, what sort of like really emotional experiences have you had playing games, if at all? And specifically, like, have you ever cried playing a game?
I actually cry a lot in a lot of different games. Like,
Really? That's the first time
yeah.
I've ever gotten that answer.
I think I even cried during the ending of BioShock 2.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, yeah, I think most people don't do that. And yeah, also like different like famous indie games like What Remains of Edith Finch, Outer Wilds, and if I'm talking about like very special crying experience, yeah, that indie game. I don't know if you know it. The game is called Before Your Eyes.
Yes. Yeah, with the
Yeah, like
webcam.
the game uses the camera to detect your eye movement. If you close your eyes, the scene goes on, the story progresses.
Right.
So I think it's a very unique, one of a kind like experience. Like because when something bad happens, because the game is about your memories and stuff. Something bad happens in your memory, you don't want to let it go. But if you blink, the scene will go. The memory will be gone. So like physically, you don't want to close your eyes, right? And mentally, you really want to cry. So eventually, you keep your eyes open to an extent that your body couldn't take it anymore. You start to cry. And mentally, you really, really want to cry. So eventually, like two things combined together, you are crying hard. Like after your eyes couldn't bear it anymore, you had to blink.
Yeah.
You blink, everything's gone. The story ended.
Right.
You are left there crying, exhausted, tired, sad. I think that's a really unique experience.
That does sound like a good one. You know, I've only played about a few minutes of it. It's something I wanted to share with my mom. So we played a little bit of it before she had to go home. But now, because of this, I will definitely fire it up again because it's a short one, isn't it? It's a
short game. It was on like Discourse, the Twitter Discourse, because it's short. People refunded it a lot.
Oh, that sucks. Oh, that's
Yeah,
so
that's
shitty. No, I kept mine. I still have mine. I'm gonna play this now. I'm gonna get through it, and then I'll check back in with you how that goes. But that's a good one. That's a really good one. I like that. That it's like not only the emotional side of things, but physiologically, you're sort of
yeah.
like
It's a
you
really well
collide into
designed game.
crying. That's good. That's a really good one. All right. Well, there's I would love to talk to you endlessly, but I do want to wrap it up there. It's been a real pleasure talking to you, man. I hope it wasn't as I hope you felt at ease, and I hope it wasn't as nerve wracking as it could have been.
It's so much better than compared to the beginning.
Okay, good. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
it's
have to
really
find
chill.
my footing too. Yeah. Well, thanks for being here, Sinno.
Thanks for
Everybody, you
having
can.
me.
Yeah, absolutely. You can catch him on Twitter, as we've been talking about. His thing will be somewhere over here. I'll put it under him, and keep an eye out for everything that he shares. All the titles that he recommends. His taste is great, and he's a very warm-hearted and inclusive dude who's like just. By the way, I'm not screwing that up, right? Pronouns like a he, dude, man. That's fine.
You can call me whatever. I really don't care.
Okay,
You can call me
just
he, you can
checking.
call me they. It really doesn't matter. But
Sure,
I
sure,
mean,
sure.
normally I just go by the pronouns of he and him.
Sure. Yeah, and all the other cool things that Sinno is sharing. So, thank you again, man. And I'll end it here. So, bye to everybody watching. But
Thank you for having me, and thank you for everybody who has been supporting me from the very beginning, or whatever, no matter when you join my journey. Thank you.